big episode 83. First time in a while. I feel like we hopped on the mic directly after a kickoff. I mean, we've been letting the results and the brains breathe for a little while to kind of develop thoughts after games to kind of figure out what we're gonna say on air. But this one I think is probably a little more emotional than the recent ones, obviously, because we just had, what I think I would call, after watching the LAFC game and the Philly and Cincy game, and then of course tonight's going to be Austin FC. But to this point, I think once again the most convincing win in this round of the playoffs out of the games that have been played.
Definitely, and just focusing on ourselves first. I just thought the performance itself was just so good.
Mm-hmm.
There's really nothing I could say that was wrong. Hey Bear, going out and getting a savage goal. One of those, goals that reminds you of Tati.
Yeah.
Just being in the right spot, being a part of the build-up play.
I think even crazier than that was Santi's ball, obviously, on that play, which I think we saw, like, a TikTok or a tweet or something, and it's like, it was, like, top underrated players, and it was, like, Santi, and it's just, like, that's just not the case. I'm kind of happy with, like, the league and the media because Santi is getting, like, his shine.
Yeah.
I think outside of even the NYCFC community right now.
I would almost argue underrated. He's putting in performances that are beyond what the coverage he gets.
Yeah. He's been insane.
Yeah. If he could just calm down with the temper sometimes, I think, you saw after he had a yellow card, he sprints up to the referee still to argue, and I'm like, dude, come on. Like, just those small mental mistakes could be the difference between us getting a cup and not. And I think I said it either last episode or the episode before, maybe even the episode with Tom.
Yep.
But I was saying I think that this team is a team that should be going for an Eastern Cup, like being in the argument in the game for an Eastern Cup, and that's where we are now, and I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, and I mean we'll probably by the end of this thing obviously get to talking about Philly, but this is definitely going to be a week of emotions leading up to that game. I think there's no more loaded opponent that we could have after all of the stuff with, the COVID gate or whatever you want to call it, COVID Cup, that the Philly fans love to claim and all that stuff. I mean, there's, this game is almost feeling much bigger than just your kind of standard run-of-the-mill finals game. And, obviously, I think there's a ton of bad blood between Philly fans and NYCFC fans.
For sure. I don't like them.
Yeah, no, me either.
I just think they're not smart. They're just not smart.
Yeah. I mean, and I think we should feel good about, what we saw in that Philly game. I mean, to me, we talked a little bit about it when we were watching it, was like, their press at the end of the game was pretty impressive, but I felt much more concerned from the Montreal side that I saw playing us today than if I was a Cincinnati fan watching that FC Cincy game and that Philly game, in terms of, like, being concerned. Obviously, I think their defense was pretty good, but their attack it was not there.
Yeah, and their attack needs to be there. Obviously, the defense, with the hit of Chanot, it is tough. But at the same time, Cushing after the game was explaining that it was kind of just a thing where they knew he wasn't going to be 100%. They knew he wasn't, fit for 90.
Yeah.
But it was kind of the thing where he wanted to put his body on the line, and the club said, "All right, give us what you got." And unfortunately, it wasn't, too much of a game.
Yeah.
But I mean, he did get the clearance there. It was nearly an own goal, but still, he was there for the clearance, and then he was obviously coaching.
Yeah.
The entire
that's
sideline. Like, it was a highlight.
I think that's like a season highlight right there. That's some of the stuff that you never forget, and it's funny, like, to see him on the sideline throwing those fingers at Collins, trying to guide, like, what they should be doing. It just speaks so much to, like, how in the past we've talked about, the potential of, like, Chanot potentially being not a player coach, but like a coach that comes back and becomes like that next Mehdi Belushi out of the people that we've seen, and getting him in the coaching thing. And obviously even the fact, or I guess the respect of the coaches to allow him to do that. I mean, I don't know if anybody would
I don't know if Cushing would stop him.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody is going up and, like, telling Chanot not to do that, but, like, what was it, like the 60th minute on, like, he's on the sideline the whole time, stressing harder than anybody else there.
Literally. Yeah, putting in a shift. I mean, he couldn't do it with his body, so he figured, hey, I can do it with my voice and my mind, which I respect greatly.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I mean, we saw great performances from GP still. I mean, he didn't end up. I don't think he ended up on the stat sheet in terms of goals or assists, but he was still causing that the other side so much troubles. Or no, he drew the pen.
Yeah.
He drew the pen, so I mean, chalked it up as a goal essentially. Tallis comes and steals it from him, but I thought he was tearing up, that other side again, and if we could get that going again, Santi going, and hopefully the Tallis injury isn't too serious.
Yeah.
But yeah, if we can get that going into Philly, I don't really think that we should have any problems or any concerns going into that game. I think it should be a 50-50 game. Both teams are hot. Both teams are very, very good. One coach has a chip on his shoulder for whatever reason. And it's kind of like, I've said it before, it's kind of like shooting yourself in the foot and then being mad that you missed a game because your foot hurts.
Yeah.
Sorry,
classical burns.
Sorry, I literally
thing there.
Sorry, dude, but we don't have revenge on our mind. I think at this point we've kind of, in my mind, fulfilled almost beyond what expectations were before.
Oh, for sure.
And so I think again we're just going in there with I know Coach Joe hates the words, but vibes really.
Mm-hmm. I mean, in terms of fulfilling expectations too. I mean, we had there goes the flag. Well, hopefully not a sign of
not an omen.
Things to come, and don't come for us if that is an omen. But totally derailed. With expectations. I mean, expectations were literally like, I mean, for some of like the louder portions of the community that were against Cushing, were like, we're gonna fire Cushing, and like we are swan diving to not a playoff showing. And now we've gotten to this Eastern Conference final, which obviously we talked about it like almost every episode at this point, but I'm seeing it more on Twitter too, that the line that would save Cushing's job was an Eastern Conference appearance. And it seems a lot of people are saying that. You see Christian, obviously, on Twitter saying that as well. Some people in the group chat saying, they think at this point Cushing is sort of secure to go next season.
Yeah.
So I think it's, it's crazy, just the turnaround that we've experienced. And then I guess as fans, the emotional roller coaster of like switching almost like a complete 180 from like a Cushing out to a Cushing in situation. Yeah,
no, I think he still should go into the next season as an interim coach. Not saying we start week 1 with Cushing as an interim coach, but I'm saying in terms of going into this offseason, I don't think we should immediately sign a contract with him.
Mm-hmm.
I think he should remain as an interim coach. We still do our proper search. We still see what's out there. Because at the end of the day, I mean, does he have the locker room now? Yes. Is he playing proper football? Yes. But if there's somebody better out there, or somebody who potentially, would be here and would want to stay for like 5 years, I would take that.
Yeah.
But I think, at this point, Cushing's a front runner. He should be the manager next season, unless like a major manager wants to come over and, take this club on a ride for like 4 years.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, this is just all I could think about towards the end of the game, and we could talk about how it felt, there were minutes where it felt like things might go extremely south. I mean, once Tallis is hurt and you don't have anybody to put in, and this is after Montreal gets that goal and rings that bell, I think we were all making jokes that it was like for their own funeral. They're ringing the bells to ring themselves out of the building. But when Tallis gets hurt and we're down a man, I mean, it was, what do they call it, like kitchen sink defending for like the last 10 minutes. And like, I can't lie, there's moments where I'm just like holding my face. Like if that second one goes in, we're in deep trouble. Yeah. Because that that also then leads to a situation where it's going to be extra time down a man. Although
I think in extra time, I think we would gain a sub.
We would gain a sub. Okay, so not quite as bad as the situation my mind was creating.
Like dwindled down at that point to like a few names.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's one of the questions. I think we were more or less spot on when it comes to the fact that the subs were going to be the difference maker in this game.
Yeah.
And the people that we listed were Malday, who we did not see, but I think it would have made a lot of sense if we did. And I think that's a big testament to what both Michaels kind of there were a little bit of conversation about O'Toole and his ability, and of course we kind of compounded on it as well in our last episode about how he was doing. But then Tales and Keaton, those were our three guys: Malte, Tales, and Keaton. Obviously, we got Keaton early, who was shaky at first, but then kind of dropped himself into a role where he was very quiet, but he was doing, he wasn't
doing what's necessary.
Yeah, he wasn't ruining the game to any point. And then Tales, out of the difference makers that we said we needed as subs, he was that. I mean, on that GP penalty draw as well, he was the one that played the ball up to him. A great ball. GP could have potentially done something with it if not taken out. And then obviously for what was, I guess, his second kick of the game after that ball was to bury that Neymar-esque penalty and put it by their keeper.
Right, yeah, I mean, no, the subs were definitely the difference. I thought, being forced into the Keaton move early, I thought that might actually hurt us in the end.
It did for a little while.
But I think just, it wasn't the Keaton sub specifically. It was the fact that we had to then switch to a 4 in the back. And right at that moment, the ref started having a disaster class like nobody's ever seen before.
Yeah.
At the exact same time. So I think, the back line was flustered. The midfield was flustered. The whole team was getting angry with the ref. And I really thought for a moment, I'm like, we're going to see this thing unravel and it's gonna completely change the game. But luckily, we keep pounding it in, trying to keep going forward and, luckily go into halftime with that second goal. I think without that second goal, the second half of that game looks completely different.
Yeah, I think when Chanot goes out, those following 10 minutes and then like the last 10 minutes of the game, including stoppage, were the two moments where it felt like things could really take a swing downhill. And obviously with the Chanot one, we're incredibly lucky that Maxi was able to score that early goal, because that does give you a bit of cushion, I guess, and also a bit of confidence for all the players that were a part of it, to sort of weather that storm. Because, at that point, if they do end up stealing a goal and they are going up 1-0, and we're already looking like we are without Chanot, where it was like a scramble to figure out how a 4 in the back even works in the middle of a knockout playoff game. I mean, like, it could have unraveled so quick, and I'm just obviously very glad it did not.
I mean, that goes to the Cushing thing, where he literally did say in the interview that they planned for when Chanot could not go any longer. It did not look like it. It looked like they
had not played.
Maybe maybe they planned for it, and Chanot assured them like, "Hey, no, I'm good for the whole game.
Yeah,
like, guys, I'm good." And then 10, 12 minutes into the game, he's done, and everyone's looking around like, "Oh God, what do we do?" But yeah, I think they eventually handled it well. We ended up obviously getting that second goal going into the halftime, which allowed us to cool those nerves, calm down as a unit, and just say, hey, we're ahead. We don't need to get our heads hot. And then just naturally led to that pen for the third goal. Yeah,
I mean, it's gonna be interesting what the lineup looks like next week. I mean, obviously now with Chanot, I don't know. We don't know the severity of anything, and even before game time next week, with the way NYCFC handles their injury releases and stuff,
we're not going to know.
We'll know nothing different than we know now, outside of probably something major. But it may give Cushing like an out to get out of the no changes if he wants to. I think obviously if Chanot is hurt, if Maxi's knock is any more serious than we're hoping it is, it kind of gives Cushing the excuse to make changes. And I think, hopefully, I think it's time for Malde to be in.
Yeah,
straight up.
I think, it's possible that Cushing saw this potential, this next week happening, and that's why he threw Matty on there.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, I may need to use Santi as Maxi next week, so let me at least get somebody else some game time so they can figure it out next game.
Yeah.
Or be able to start next game. And you may see Matty, you may see O'Toole on that left wing.
Thiago didn't play.
Thiago may play. I would plan, if you're going with your heart, plan for No Tales, plan for Hebert to start up front, GP, and, either Thiago Monti or O'Toole with Malt obviously sliding to left back, because I think Malt is much more comfortable in a 4-back whereas O'Toole is kind of dependent almost on a 5
he
or a 3
needs
back.
somebody, an extra player back there to kind of make up for that defensive.
Right.
And I think, I mean, I would almost guarantee like we're not going to get a Tales start, not because of the injury, but I just don't know how you take Haber out with a goal in each game in the playoffs. I mean, it doesn't matter how you get them, whether or not it was the giveaway at the end of the game or, I mean, I'll be honest, this was not like a poacher goal that Haber scored here. I mean, I would put anybody in that situation, and there's probably, I mean, I'm not scoring that goal.
No, there's
You're
only
not
a
scoring that
handful
goal.
of people that can score that goal.
Yeah, I mean, you do have to be a striker in
Coming
that position.
across body.
Yeah, far post past the goalkeeper.
Yeah. Class finish.
Yeah,
True.
no, seriously. And, so I don't see how you take a man like that out of it. And, unfortunately, the Tales injury, may have an effect on what we do. Because we're going to end up, like you said, plugging in some of those guys that are not having a lot of minutes under the belt, like Matty and Thiago. So I'm begging Matty to show something. We were talking about in the game how, like, I am probably the biggest Matty supporter at this club, and I have little to no reason to have that be a thing. But I don't know, it's something about like the Argentinian winger. Obviously, he's taken up quite a bit of salary when it comes to our thing.
A lot of
and he's locked in through 2023, so it might just be copium of me trying to will Matty performances into existence.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I mean,
he needs to show something though soon, and that's coming from me as the largest Matty supporter. I'll crown myself that.
Yeah.
There is going to come a point where you can't show nothing for so long and still be demanding minutes, salary, all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, like we were talking during the week, I was just, I'm not saying that he's a bad player. I was just simply saying, for the money that we're paying him, he does need to show something.
Mm-hmm.
And, clearly he's not demanding a spot in training if he's, he wasn't even getting sub appearances before today.
Yeah.
Whether Cushing thinks that the scope of things are just too big for him or what. Mm-hmm. But me personally, I look at that and I go, he's not earning it in training, so he's not going to get the time on the pitch. Flat out, period.
Yeah.
I think in this case it was more of an emergency thing in saying, hey, we really don't have anybody else, and we really may need you next week. So, go earn your spot next week. And I think it was kind of you couldn't make a decision based off of his performance this week.
Yeah. To
say he deserves to at least see 20 minutes next week.
Yeah. I mean, he did have that one run and then was taken out by whoever it was, Kyoto, but I mean, that was a soft challenge. Matty went down very easily. Yeah. He almost, I thought in that moment, he almost needs to get on that James Sands workout plan that we begged in, 2020, before 2021, for James Sands to hit the weights hard in the off season, and he did. And Matty sort of in that moment, I saw like the same physique in terms of like needing to put some meat on there, especially as a striker in the MLS where it could get pretty strong. So he needs that. All right.
Just need. Yeah. I'm agreeing with you.
So yeah, I mean, one thing I was thinking was with these conversations about players that aren't doing so well. I mean, let's say that we're being pretty nitpicky because the jobs are getting done, but I think what we're kind of doing is picking out
the team
where things could have very much hurt us.
Which was the entire left side.
Yeah, and that's two guys that at different moments of the game were on the left side.
Right, which last episode we were talking about, how if Montreal had chosen to shut down Tenerife side and take them out, that GOOOOO would have no problem going forward and taking that on his shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't really talk or plan about them abusing his side.
Yeah.
For space and shots, crosses and things like that, which were being spammed from his side, like truly spammed.
Yep.
And he wasn't, like we had talked about earlier in that episode too, he wasn't close enough to that defender on that side and was giving up too much.
Mm-hmm.
And we said it then that it really could have bitten us in the butt.
Yeah.
And it just didn't. We got lucky, and this is 2 games in a row where it just can't happen. You have to be closer to your guy there. I think he could have really hurt us today, and he didn't. I would say he's probably on like a 30-minute watch next week.
Mm-hmm.
And that's if he starts. If he starts, he's on a 30-minute watch where if we're getting abused again like that on that side, we just have to take him out and we have to go with something different.
Yeah. I think like you said, though, the team was able to get the job done, and all I could think about at the end of the game before it got kind of scary was like it's beginning to feel a lot like 2021. And I don't know, I mean, I think it was Chris Campbell that tweeted, he said, our first round, we had our dominating performance. Obviously, in 2021, we did that against Atlanta at home, and then we went on the road and took down who was a tough team higher in the table than us, New England last year, Montreal this year, and now obviously returning to the Philadelphia field to hopefully teach them a lesson. It's just like it's so eerily similar, and it's funny because with all these parallels, like we were kind of being told by like Sean and some of the people in the media, like this is not the same as last year, and it's dude, it feels so much like last year.
It feels so similar.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't want to. I'm not counting anything. I think at this point, like you said, when it comes to expectations, this all kind of feels like free soccer. Honestly, at this point,
we shouldn't even be in contention for the Eastern Cup final. Given the form that we had, not right before the playoffs because we kind of hit a little stride, but when we were sitting here talking about Cushing out and we were sitting here talking about these players need to get it done and they're not, we just wanted to make the playoffs at that point.
Yeah.
And we were like, if Cushing makes the playoffs, that kind of, good for him, but he's still going to be gone. And
yeah,
we nowhere did anybody expect this. So, look, I'm happy. I would love to go get another championship this year and get an Eastern Cup and battle for another MLS Cup.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, obviously, my mindset is just like enjoy the free soccer. I think probably the team feels the same way, and that's at least I think in all sports what you kind of hear is like when there aren't expectations and you are the underdog, it's much easier to go in and do your job. And much like 2021 as well, I'll say it again, is all of our guys that are just kind of regular guys that aren't the stars on our team are doing their job, and that was absolutely the story of last year. We always talk about the Rocha performance in New England coming in extra time. Tales, who at the time hadn't showed us a lot, scores in Philly. I believe it was either the equalizer or the go-ahead. You have these dudes step up that aren't typically the ones stepping up, and I think we've seen that with Acevedo, and we've seen that with a few people around the team. So I'm just, I'm excited, I guess, for this Philly game. But I think if we were to record,
but nervous.
Yeah, if we were to record this episode, probably closer to the game, it would have a little different vibe to it, a little more serious, a little more nervous, and I don't know. We're gonna have to see how it goes.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see how it goes, and just hope for the best. They all have to do their job. They know that.
Twitter.
Have fun.
I was gonna say Twitter's probably gonna be
war zone.
Yeah, uncensored this week. Hide your kids' eyes from our Twitter this week because if you see too many irrational tweets from Philly fans, like there's gonna get a point where you can't hold back anymore, and you have to say something to somebody. So that might happen a few times.
I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I know that the Phillies could potentially go to the World Series, I think, tonight.
Yeah, they're doing well.
I would say if that happens, that doesn't bode well for their MLS club.
You think so?
Yeah, just vibes.
Mm.
But
I saw them greasing up the poles in Philly. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
So we will see you guys, obviously, next week.
After the Philly game.
Little conversations here and there about if it's possible for us as humans to go.
Yeah,
we'll have to kind of deep dive that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
And see what's going on with that. But
I will say they only gave 200 tickets to NYCFC supporters this year. I mean, it's
I'll have to pass.
I don't know. I guess as somebody said that MLS is making the allocations, and I don't know. I don't understand. We obviously had way more than 200 at the game last year. I don't know if I guess maybe our supporter section gets a bad rap, but I'm not really sure why, because every interaction that, we've had around every stadium at, any number of NYCFC games has been tame, family friendly, and like literally just like passion for your club. So
all it is. It's not to keep.
Remember they did the FBI thing last year?
Yeah,
The Philly, like,
weirdos.
Bro, it's soccer.
Bozos.
It's soccer, bro.
Weirdos.
I don't know.
But yeah, no, it's just it's try to gain an advantage.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And if you have your home field advantage, I guess take advantage of it.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say one thing for sure is a lot of those Philly fans are gonna be selling their tickets at extreme prices instead of just going and enjoying and supporting their club. And they will be selling them to actual NYCFC supporters that have that passion and love to go and support their club. So I guess the loss feels better if the bank account's a little fatter, but we're gonna be there in numbers.
We're gonna be there.
NYCFC supporters will be there in numbers.
Definitely.
Obviously, I don't know if we talked about it last episode or if I just tweeted about it, but I firmly believe that we travel better than any other club in the league,
sure.
And I'll fight somebody on it if they want to talk about it. But we are the supporter standard, I think, in this league, so we'll be there.
And they better not mess around and have this MLS Cup final at Yankee Stadium. They better not.
Nah.
I swear they better not.
It may be 6-0.
You think we're insufferable now? Wait until you have 115 people in one corner and you got 20,000 New Yorkers going bozo.
No, I was thinking about that, and I don't know. I don't wanna say anything, but I feel like the MLS would like step in and be like, no, you guys, we're forcing you to have it at RBA or something stupid like that. I don't know, but if it's at Yankee Stadium, it's gonna be a tough environment. Let's just say a tough environment. So yeah, I mean that is episode 83. Yeah, we got word from Tom, the MLS podcast thing we talked about last episode, that he's chopping it up now. So hopefully, maybe a little bit after Philly, maybe a little bit before Philly, it could come out. But we're gonna blast that out to everybody. Obviously, a super interesting conversation on MLS outsider. I mean, sort of becoming an insider in terms of knowing the league, and then obviously us who know quite a bit about the club and the league and kind of sharing different sentiments. So I think it was a super interesting thing we talked about. Yeah,
and shout out Nepenthes. Apparently he's a fan.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So
that's sick. Of us?
No, I mean
of Tom.
Well, eventually.
Of Tom?
No, of NYCFC.
Of NYCFC, really?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Apparently, he probably chose it last year though.
Yeah, well, I think we adopt a lot of Man City fans. I don't know if he is one, but
I don't know either.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
So,
but they love our kits abroad.
Okay, well, yeah. I mean,
cool.
that's 83. We'll catch you guys after Philly. Obviously, keep it locked on at Post90Pod on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok. Obviously, here on YouTube, toss a sub if you're hearing this. But Twitter is the spot for you to hear more commentary from us leading up to this game, and trust me, there will be a lot of it.
A little less filtered.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially if you find our personals.
Yeah, that's for sure. So yeah. I mean, they're linked in the bio. Of the company one.
That was the chair. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyways, we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, peace.